Well, did any of us see that coming? Rational perspective, full-time Chelsea 6, Everton 0. Chelsea rampant, their best and most dominant performance of the Premier League season. And it comes at a very valuable time, a time when Pochettino needs to find a response from his players, some consistency as the chase for Europe gets down to the final few weeks. And it's bizarre sitting here. The fluctuation in emotions is obviously nothing new for Chelsea this season. I mean, we've spent many times here this year going from, feeling delirious in shock like we were post Man United to feeling very despondent and critical as we were post Burnley and Sheffield United. I don't think it's invalid now to turn around and go that those criticisms were unfounded, were not fair given the performances and given the failure to beat some really bad teams. But then you look at the performance tonight that was so complete, our first clean sheet, and it feels like a very, very long time. I know it is in terms of Premier League, but it is a nice cherry on top of a very delicious cake served up by himself, Cole Palmer, who of course was the star of the show once again from a Chelsea perspective. And there were things about tonight's performance that slightly concerned me. Our inability at times to look confident at set pieces. Everton's strength from that, but they didn't capitalise on that strength tonight. And, certain things that, again, I think at this point we're nearly in May, you can't really get too shocked about at this point personnel-wise. But listen, it's a 6-0 win and we got an astounding individual performance, a brilliant centre-forward goal, and a first goal and wonderful, joyous moment right at the end for a Cobham graduate. So all round it was brilliant. I guess, the starting 11 was not that much of a shock because of all the injuries that have toppled on in recent days. We knew Enzo Fernandez wasn't going to be playing. We knew Axel Disasi wasn't going to be playing. So I think there was always that kind of understanding of, well, based on recent selections, based on who Pochettino is most likely to go for, wasn't that shocking who started the game. It's just about, what is the performance going to be like? How are Chelsea going to be able to withstand the type of team they've really struggled against? And sure, as commentary is, as I'm sure a lot of Everton fans will look at that first opening, period of the game when Beto has the chance that flashes across the goal. And at that moment, I was very concerned because Everton looked like they started strongly. But then after that, it was the magic of Cole Palmer that really set the tone and completely changed the game and took it away from Everton. And tonight you saw what we have seen all season, but it really was validated tonight how special a player Cole Palmer is. Not only in terms of what he did individually on the night, but when you actually stack up the numbers for goals in the Premier League this season, not only in terms of past Chelsea attackers that we've loved, but current Premier League attackers that are some of the best in the world. You really do have to work miracles and mental gymnastics to try and claim that Cole Palmer is anything other than a revelation for Chelsea. He is a player that Chelsea, from an attacking end product point of view, have looked for many years, have spent way more than 42 million to try and sign. So that first goal was just brilliant, right? Because you can't dismiss it as, well, he's taking a penalty. Oh, it's a tap-in. It's a moment of magic from a more central position because he started in the middle. Mudryk and Madueke flanked him. Nicolas Jackson in front of him. Jackson sets up the goal. But that little, through the legs, 1-2 with Jackson, and then first time left-footed into the bottom corner. It's just world class. I mean, it's just simply outstanding the way Palmer from those positions is able to just quickly and so calmly find the right decision when so many players in his team in recent Chelsea history have found the wrong ones, and it sets the tone. Every goal was different, and that's what I loved about it. The first goal is a little bit of invention, creativity. The second goal is striker's instinct. How many times over the years have we as Chelsea fans been so frustrated when we've looked at the 6-yard box, a ball goes flashing through and no one's anticipating it, no one's looking for that loose ball, that tap in, or we have a shot that rebounds and a blue shirt is never first to it. That's what Cole Palmer as well has brought to this team, an instinct inside the 6-yard box that just looks so hungry to score that chance and gets it. And again, 2-0, massive moment in the game. The third share is put on a platter by Jordan Pickford, but the fact it's on his weaker foot and he just curls that calmly into the net, and pretty much from that point I was quite confident that despite Chelsea's frailties, I thought the game was probably gone there. And it was lovely as well, right at the end of the first half, that Nicolas Jackson, who had helped Cole Palmer start the game with a goal, gets one himself with a truly wonderful piece of centre-forward play. Yes, the defending from a team who actually defensively have been pretty resolute in recent weeks under Sean Dyche was poor. They didn't put enough pressure on Jackson. But the way he takes that cross down from Cucurella and swivels and then is able to volley it into the ground and into the bottom corner is just another great example of, how good Nicolas Jackson has done based on expectation level this season. Double figures for him now. I've heard a lot about a certain player that we sold to a North London club who apparently is having his best Premier League season. Well, not only Nicolas Jackson with that goal tonight has surpassed that best season, but that player never achieved it for Chelsea. So it just gives you some perspective, right, that for all people talk about Jackson's limitations and the fact that he is very raw, he's come into an environment that has put him under a lot of pressure, but he has responded, I think, consistently in a really good way. And to get 10 goals at least is at the very least a satisfactory season. I'm sure he'd want to at least reach 15, which is still possible. But of course, post half time, you're kind of thinking, are we going to get a little bit of a dip? But Chelsea are able to get a penalty. We have to talk about the one negative of the night before the penalty, obviously, which was, again, this nonsense we have seen so consistently this season. It's not an anomaly, and you can't gaslight me into thinking that it's okay and it's just, it's great to see players being really urging and motivated to score goals. No, it looks chaotic because it looks like a lack of leadership. And where does that stem from? Does that stem from the head coach? I think in this situation it's more so in a case of just putting your foot down. Like, it shouldn't happen. There shouldn't be this kind of mass drama anytime we get a penalty, even when our best penalty taker, our best player is on the pitch. If he's not on the pitch, then I can understand it. But again, it's just that lack of clarity in this group that is so frustrating, because that moment will be picked apart by non-Chelsea people, even by Chelsea fans being concerned by it. Fair play to Connor for stepping in, but previous Chelsea teams and a lot of good teams, I just don't think that happens. And it's not a one-off. If that was the first time we saw that incident happen, it'd be frustrating. You'd have criticisms of Jackson and Madueke. But the fact that we have seen it a variety of times this year from Raheem Sterling and others too that have, I'm sure Madueke has wanted to take penalties as well. I'm sure Jackson has in the past too. And others as well. It should not be a conversation. Cole Palmer, when he's on the pitch, just like when Eden Hazard was on the pitch, just like when Frank Lampard was on the pitch, he's the number one designated penalty taker. Unless he hands the ball over to you and gives you the ball, maybe right at the end of a game. I understand we're 4-0 up at that point, the game's done, but still, it's about that leadership. It's about that hierarchy. It's about that responsibility, and it just looked like the individualism in this team creeping into a night that actually looked like a more coherent and cohesive performance. It was just frustrating. But obviously Cole Palmer, as we know, the coolest man in West London, the coolest man in the Premier League, is not fazed by that, and he just calmly steps up and puts it beyond Jordan Pickford. I mean, that now means 20 Premier League goals for the season, matching Diego Costa's first season in the Premier League. He is now level. I think this is the most maddening stat of them all. He's now level with Erling Haaland in the Premier League for this season. That's insane. And there's no, again, without Cole Palmer, we'd be in serious bother. I mean, we may still end in European places, but you think about what this guy has done, and sure, defensively off the ball, he is not alone in having frailties, but on the ball, he makes the difference. And I will take having players who have frailties off the ball if they're able to do what Cole Palmer does on a consistent basis, because his goals make the difference. His invention makes the difference. His movement, his guile takes this team up several levels with all the frailties they have, and you see performances like tonight. So hopefully on Saturday at Wembley, he can make a difference again against his former club, because with him, he brings so much joy into a season that has brought a lot of frustration and at times misery, and just joyous footballer. Incredible. 42 million is just, a demonstration of, how weird the market is, that for 42 million pounds, we have got this absolute genius of a player who hopefully is only going to get better because he's still so ridiculously young. And then we got this really lovely moment at the end. Alfie Gilchrist, who of course has been making cameos since Christmas. And I just loved it, right? I loved the passion. I loved the emotion just absolutely bursting out of him. And it's something I spoke about recently where, Cobham graduates know that they don't have this endless supply of opportunities. They don't have the political kind of clout that a big signing gets. So they don't have weeks and weeks and weeks to fail, and they're going to get endless chances. Cobham graduates, to them, they have survived and made it through the most challenging and elite academy in world football. To survive and to develop and to be at that position through this shows you how much adversity as a player, even to get to this stage, shows you how incredible a character you have to be. But then to actually do what Alfie has done so far this season, where he is, put in some really big challenges. I think about the one against Luton. I think about the involvement he's had in games to see out Leeds against the likes of Fulham and Palace during that Christmas period. And when you see that emotion, it shows a connection between him and the fans and the club that's been so lacking at Chelsea. And I just really hope for Alfie's sake, who recently signed a contract, he isn't going to fall victim again to this kind of pure profit policy, because those are those moments that get lost. Those are those moments that are priceless. Those moments mean so much because they speak to a journey. They reflect a journey that player has been on for a very long time. You could even see post the goal, when the restart was about to happen, how joyful and kind of in shock almost he was. I want to have players like that in my team, and they don't always have to come through Cobham, but to see that emotion, every fan can relate to it, because every fan would have celebrated. I love the fact that it's 6-0, it's the last goal, the game's done right at the end of added time, but he celebrates it like he scored the winner in a cup final. That means a lot, and it was just, again, a really nice cap to end what was a perfect night for Mauricio Pochettino, really, other than the penalty incident, other than Baby Madueke going off looking like he had some sort of a problem. Other than that, you can't really complain. Chelsea have put themselves back in a position where maybe they can get European football. I guess now all attention, of course, is going to turn to the weekend in the FA Cup semi-final against Manchester City, which is a huge test. It really is. I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better kind of appetizer or kind of build up to it from a Chelsea point of view. Man City still have to play Real Madrid on Wednesday night, and there's some, discussion around City circles over how seriously they're going to take that game. But I think whoever City put out, it's going to be a really big test for Chelsea. No doubt Chelsea are not the favourites going in there. But we have seen performances against City this season that have been some of our best and most encouraging. So hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll be there at Wembley and Chelsea can do something. But for tonight, it's been a really good performance, and I don't want to go overboard because we've been here before with Chelsea. Not exactly 6-0, but we've been here before feeling like, is this the moment it turns round? But I think a lot of us were fearing that this was going to be more drop points, and the fact that it wasn't, the fact that it was so convincing, hopefully gives the players a lot of confidence, because they have Man City, they have Arsenal, they have Spurs coming up, they have West Ham coming up, they have a higher calibre of opposition coming up. So hopefully it sets them in the best way to end the season strongly.